Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
We now enter the concluding segment of the treatment of the subject recruitment, selection, skill formation and redeployment. And in this unit of presentation, I am going to cover skill formation and redeployment. Let us look at what the skill formation contents are in a work situation and how it is developed. An organization's capacity is its potential to perform. This is one of the classical statements of management which can never be overlooked. The capacity of an organization is not its actual performance, but its potential to perform. And if it is the potential to perform, then this potential has to be converted into a strategic advantage which can only be skills. An organization's ability to successfully apply these skills and resources to accomplish its goals and satisfy its stakeholders' expectations are the essence of its existence. If an organization can neither satisfy the expectations of the stakeholders of the organization or accomplish the goals, what can be the justification for the existence of an organization? An organization's performance is therefore influenced by its capacity, internal environment and the external environment in which it operates. The capacity of performance is an organization's basic strategic advantage. It determines the internal environment and is a factor of the external environment. An organization's capacity can also be understood and measured in terms of competency at different levels in organization. So, here you enter a differentiated concept of an organization. An organization is not just a unified whole in terms of its performing rhythm, but in terms of different levels. An organization may have a very good set of workers, but a poor capacity can be there at the level of the supervisors and vice versa. And you can go up the various scalar principles of organization and come to an obvious conclusion that unless the capacities at different levels are synergistically linked, you have at hand a situation where organization's performance at one level will not be matched by organization's performance at another level, and therefore, the overall results would be less than satisfactory. The aim of capacity development is to improve the potential performance of the organization as reflected in its resources and its management. If an organization cannot convert its potential into performance, it would appear reasonable to conclude that the organization is not likely to survive long. Putting it in a schematic form would lend some clarity to the understanding. Observe this diagram, which talks of what is skill formation. Global economic competitiveness rests on the knowledge and skills of the workforce. Nations need to find ways to upgrade the skills. The nature of skills has to do with its relationships with productivity, and that too in a dynamic environment. How does this integration takes place? The integration takes place with reference to the major tasks. The major tasks are aligned in the following manner with the operational situation: transfer of knowledge, strategic sharing of experience and know-how, assistance to strengthen the human resources and training functions, dissemination of information, human capacity building and special initiatives. Let us pause there, because each of these 5 elements are a universe in their own right. And you heard me say that just as nations need to find ways to upgrade the skills, the nature of skills and its relationship with productivity is a changing one, and the connectivity is through the major tasks. Sounds a fairly complicated formulation to accept, but on the balance not such a complicated task at all. Major tasks have to be correlated with transfer of knowledge. Transfer of knowledge in terms of getting the latest and the best. The latest and the best necessarily does not have to be the biggest. Transfer of knowledge relevant to the situation has to take place. This has been progressively captioned as knowledge management, and many organizations have set up knowledge management processes within their organization. Sharing of experiences and know-how is not to be confused with transfer of knowledge. Transfer of knowledge very often builds up on transfer of information, but sharing of experiences and know-how is more an exchange process. The sharing of experiences usually takes place at a peer level, usually takes place in a manner where organizations, even operating under different technologies, compare experiences, say in blast furnaces operation, or the different ways of passing oxygen over heated pig iron to expedite the processes, and the technicalities of the operation of value addition of raw iron into steel is not something which can be gone into here, but the illustration is simple. Experiences are with reference to the handling of certain technological processes or certain managerial processes, and above all the need to understand that sharing of experiences is an important tool in understanding how to operate a system better. Then there is the assistance to strengthen the human resources and training function, which is why continuous skill formation requires continuous training inputs. And training and development has become an integrated function. Dissemination of information is important because it helps to know what is happening on the supply chain, it helps to know what is happening in the market, and above all it helps to know what is happening in the organization. Human capacity building and special initiatives are an essential part of organization development. Unless this happens, it will be impossible to take the organization forward. And human capacity building is not a one-time effort. Therefore, I will leave this for a few moments here longer, so that you can absorb it before I move forward. There is another schematic diagram which I would like to face with you. It is what it reads: factors important for successful technological innovation. There is the government policy and intervention mechanism, there are the market forces, there is the investment and tax climate, there are the design issues, there are the research issues, there are the skilled resource issues, there are the capital issues. And as the literature in this area establishes, and this is a fairly standardized way of understanding the situation, you have the inventor, the entrepreneur, the manager and the promoter, who are working on a scale of high to low in terms of creativity and innovation, and low to high in general management skills and business know-how networks. And this matrix shows to you where you can be positioned with reference to creativity and general management skills when you are the inventor, when you are the promoter, when you are the entrepreneur, and when you are the manager. The suggestion is, in terms of the relative skills of entrepreneur and innovation and general management skills of business know-how and networks, the kind of requirement which is there is possible to be presented in this schematic manner. But while presenting this schematic manner, all that I am saying is this is one point of view, and this is certainly open to debate. Skill formation therefore requires learning, organizational aspects, individual considerations, and learning renewal, a fairly standardized set. In fact, from learning renewal you could go back to learning, and again the same sequence follows. There are general skills, there are industry specific skills, there are firm specific skills, high portability, objectively certified, and can have unemployment protection. Industry specific skills, low portability, high unemployment, low employment protection. Firm specific skills, very low portability, on-site training, high unemployment, and you still could have some employment protection. The sector demanding multi-level skill options are the following. Please read it very carefully. These are sector demanding multi-level skills operation, but this list is neither exhaustive nor exclusive. This is a broad selection ranging from construction, going through finance, real estate, insurance, business services, transport, storage, construction, wholesale and retail trade, manufacturing, community, social and personal services, agriculture, electricity, what have you. And essentially this is supposed to show that sector demanding multi-level skills option are large and they cannot be wished away, and this pattern may be available elsewhere. There are skill formation and hierarchies, and there is a close relationship between levels of skills and job hierarchy. An inherent situation, because close relationships between level of skills and job hierarchy have a strong component of cerebral skills and not necessarily material skills, and it keeps going up. However, level of skills does not alone decide the personnel's position in the job hierarchy. Protocol might. The extent of risk to which a person is exposed may decide his level. The type of onshore and offshore activity that has to do may decide the level in the hierarchy. Hardship postings may decide his hierarchy. But by and large, the level of skills do play a significant role in deciding a hierarchy. Also important is the type of skills, its demands and marketability. The compensation is decided by the universality of availability, the kind of specialization it requires, and strangely enough, some of the national patterns also determine the level of hierarchy. The national patterns which determine the level of hierarchy may be profession specific. For example, you may have at a certain stage shortage of masons, on another stage shortage of carpenters, and what has been experienced very largely. Entire professions have passed away when regulations have moved in. See what happened to workers who used to work on ivory. The kind of specialized skills which they had, the kind of artistry which they had, the kind of job which they did, putting entire volumes of religious texts on one grain, show the sophistication. But ever since ivory acquired the present status of being protected and whatever else, the profession of the people who used to work on ivory just melted into nothingness, and that much skill was lost. It is not a question of whether that should be or should not be so. This kind of debate is so universal and people take positions even before they think. They have come to conclusions without looking at the pros and cons, and every generic regulation has so many exceptions that the issues can almost never be resolved. All I am saying is clinically a profession which was both rare and prized passed away. Whether it was right or wrong, I leave it for people to decide for themselves. I am nobody to help people to come to a conclusion so far as such things are concerned. Also, it is important that the type of skills and its demands and its marketability are closely related to formal skills. But apart from the worker's skills, an employee's place in the job structure, and please follow this formulation very carefully. Apart from the worker's skills, an employee's place in the job structure also depends upon the worker's personal and social attributes. In Western countries, decades ago, the house help who would come in for dusting and cleaning, and even that profession seems to be on the way out, would walk in, do the dusting and cleaning, take off the apron and sit with the lady of the house and share a cup of tea, usually on the dining table which was placed in the kitchen, before leaving. That kind of situation in developing countries is not known to exist, because that kind of value ascription to labor and effort still appears a rarity. And again, that is a debate which I do not wish to open, which then brings us to concerns of redeployment, and I would like you briefly to walk through this slide to understand the significance of redeployment. Now, let us try to understand why redeployment is an issue at all. Redeployment becomes an issue when the technology changes, and you have found my remarks in this set of presentations earlier on, talking of the telecom sector off and on to give an illustration of the point under consideration. And the point under consideration is, when Stodger moves to ESS2, what do you do with the skill formation level of the engineers who worked on Stodger? They may be in their 30s, they may be in their 40s, they may be in their 30s, but you can't just send them away. What you will find is the obligation on the part of the employer to train the engineers to be ready for upscalability of the technology in the organization, and this happened in ITI, for example, around the 80s. and a huge redeployment effort took place. So, continuous growth of technology, the continuous change in technology inevitably creates a situation where redeployment becomes the rule and you can't get away from it. It is not exclusive to one part of the globe, it is common to every part of the globe. It is common in almost every industry. Why talk of the industry? Many techniques of operations research, which earlier on were done manually, have now been rendered unnecessary because they can be all done through computer programming. Linear programming is merely one of them. So, what do you do with that level of skill formation? You can't simply say, sorry, the work is not there anymore. The type of draftsman which was needed earlier on is no longer needed. The ways of doing drawings in architecture has changed. The examples are so many that they can be almost endlessly displayed. The purpose is to help you to understand that redeployment is a way of life. If these lectures were being given 30 years ago, yes, and I was teaching similar courses 30 years ago, the method of instruction was nothing like what it is today. It was avant-garde to use an overhead projector. Now, overhead projectors are not to be found. One prepared acetate sheets, sometimes with the help of draftsmen, and then photocopied the diagrams, or one wrote simply with markers as one talked. Today, the era is of use of pen drives, laptops, projections on screens, long distance projections, use of ICTs, and instead of direct interaction with the students, you have standardized FAQs, where the instructor or the coordinator has to anticipate the questions and give the answers. And then, as if to accommodate individual needs, it is still possible to ask individual questions, but such questions are not the routine mechanism of what would happen in a classroom interaction. Now, one can go on debating it whether A worked better or B worked better. The truth is, each situation has its package of advantages and disadvantages. The advantages of the present situation is it has deepened the reach. The kind of audience which will see these videos would have been impossible to convert into a classroom situation. And the kind of repetitive viewing which can go on will be a strengthening of learning. But who knows, 10 years later these videos may need to be updated, because what is presented in these videos is presented through considerable referencing, which is presented through consistent and continual and quality reflection, so that appropriate communication is backed up with sharing of information which is already existing in various books, journals, references, and hopefully leavened by the resource person's ability to interpret, apply, communicate, explain, anticipate, and above all make it presentable. Redeployment has already taken place in the teaching profession. So, I have cited you examples of redeployment amongst the blue collared workers, amongst the white collared employees. I have cited you examples of what has happened in the intangible world of knowledge, and the time has come to point out to you that redeployment is a way of life in a work organization. Redeployment is not always within the organization, as has been shown to you on this preceding slide, which was up for your observation. Redeployment can also take place outside the organization. But so far as the study of human resources aspect is concerned, it is important to recognize that HR department has a responsibility to design a redeployment program that support overall business goals, as much as their employees' careers. For human resources professionals, legislative exigencies and organizational strategies are central to successful policy formulation and program design, because the laws themselves may change with reference to the operational requirements. The kind of machines which are found at the shop floor, the CNC machines, or of any other variety, require redeployment, otherwise productivity will be hit. So, the long and short of it is, redeployment is a way of life. At the Intel, for example, the term redeployment is applied internally to embody the process of reassigning a surplus of human resources from one work unit to another, and units of their business where people are needed. So, redeployment need not take place in the same broadband. Interestingly, this type of deployment can involve the reassignment of entire work teams. When HR policies and programs are developed for internal redeployment, they often focus on reassignment, and this needs to be understood very carefully. redeployment can very often focus on reassignment, retraining programs, relocation policies, new employment schemes. And interestingly, it can even lead to sabbaticals, where you ask a person to go on education leave to augment his skills and come back and play a role in the organization. Generally, the more senior the position in an organization, the more redeployment policy is affected by the labor market. And economic indicators are a prime player. It requires continuous resilience to negotiate an individual redeployment arrangement. To talk of human resources and redeployment, therefore, is an integral part of the scene. Redeployment challenges human resources ability to keep that balance while at the same time controlling costs and maintaining expected performance levels. Because one of the inherent arguments of a redeployment situation is that redeployment cannot cause a lowering of the employment worth. So, you have to be transferred, moved on, reassigned tasks which can merit equal compensation, and it cannot be that you can be relegated to a lower position. That cannot happen, the law does not permit it. The enterprise practices will not permit it. So, it seems to me that designing a sound redeployment program and developing competencies of outplacement specialists enable human resources to support organizational goals, meet legislative requirements, and develop realistic timetable, not to overlook implementational plans. Let us go over these elements again to make sure they have communicated themselves. Designing a sound redeployment program and developing competencies of outplacement specialists enable human resources to support organizational goal. Please note, support organizational goal, meet legislative requirement, and develop realistic timetables and implementation plans. Be that as it may, redeployment and outplacement are linked. Redeployment can be an effective strategic tool when linked with outplacement solution. The employees who participate in redeployment activities emerge better prepared not only for redeployment, but for pursuit of external positions. So, one can move from one organization to another. Again, organizational realities make it incumbent without change in the professions which we have been talking so much about. How does it happen? It happens through mergers and acquisitions. It happens through takeovers. It happens through restructuring. Entire boards are changed when shares are sold and bought in certain percentages. Even a position on the board cannot be assured if there are strategic changes in management control. The redeployment skills which people have acquired would prime them for external jobs market, so that those employees who ultimately choose external over internal jobs often find that those jobs are sometimes the same, sometimes different, but the trick lies in getting to them before you are pushed out. So, just as the individuals have to do environment scanning, individuals and organizations in a like manner operate for scanning purposes. Organizations do their environment scanning, individuals do their environment scanning, and it is absolutely the practice of the place that individuals seek out placement on their own when they see the internal environment is changing with a certain speed, which simply can't be explained or managed. Having been provided with such comprehensive and effective job search support, and this is the heart of the problem, the organization is well positioned to bring back any of the individuals as contractors, consultants, or even employees, should the future conditions warrant. Now, this self-feeding cycle has to be understood. We just discussed how individuals themselves may search for an outplacement. We discussed how organizations can push individuals out. We discussed how individuals need to do the environment scan just as much as an organization need to do their environment scan to keep updated and in line with the changing situation. But again, the take away from longitudinal thinking was it goes a full circle. After the organization may have gone to the extent of even providing effective job search and people have moved out, the organization may have needs to be looking to bring back the people who have left, only this time in different capacities as contractors, consultants, or even employees. This is not the only pattern. At times, a senior person moves out in another senior position and he gets people from his previous organizations to work with him. If not work with him, he selectively brings people from his previous place of work. One has to imagine what it does to the parent organization, from which the senior person left and junior persons start leaving selectively to join his new team. In other words, we live in an era of continuous mobility, continuous change, of which redeployment and outplacement is just one. What are the stages in redeployment? Ensure alignment of redeployment strategies across all levels of the organization. Create an online redeployment portal to facilitate a smooth and efficient process, enabling employees to post, search and apply for internal positions. A very interesting concept. As an employee, you post for an internal position. Yes, it is known to happen some places. Encourage engagements in self-discovery process to help employees identify unique skills and competencies. Provide training and development with one-to-one coaching in job search basics such as resume development, again a new art which has grown up. Networking and ability to networking is a very widely noted requirement because assignments come out of networking, self marketing, interviewing, and the list goes on. A new brave world is being born, the parameters of which are not quite clear. But one thing that is obvious as the writing on the wall, mobility, movement will have to be the response to turbulence and turmoil in the places of work. The discussion on stages of redeployment would be extended to include identify redeployment champions within the organization, to act as mentors and coaches for employees seeking redeployment. Again, a new profession, mentoring, coaching employees for seeking redeployment. This was never a training and development function 10 years ago, but now the HR wing, through their training and development activities, are meant to cater to this, are meant to cater to a situation where you prepare them for redeployment, not because the organization needs it, but the organization needs to shed them. And what did I mean by saying not that the organization needs it? What I meant was not that the technology has changed and therefore, you need those people, but with different skills. No, your numbers are changing. So, if your numbers are changing and if you prepare your employees for seeking redeployment elsewhere, then your numbers remain manageable without an acrimonious situation. Offer objective career guidance to ensure employees are able to effectively assess roles. Very important. You must be able to effectively assess roles and determine the best fit for both individual and organizational needs. Please read this sentence carefully. It is one of the core submissions which is being made. Offer objective career guidance to ensure employees are able to effectively assess roles and determine best fit for both individual and organizational needs. Prepare employees for success by providing training for new roles. There is a relationship between redeployment and redundancy. Redeploy person may arise, the need to redeploy a person may arise because of redundancies, just as I have argued that it may arise because of organizational change. It may also arise because of non-renewal of fixed term contracts. Organizations should retain the skills, knowledge, experience of its staff wherever possible, and recognize the benefits of redeploying staff to ensure their continued career elsewhere and industrial peace in the organization. Redeployment allows staff to be moved from activities which are of lesser priority or which have been rationalized, reconfigured, restructured to areas of greater need. Now, this is a whole new terminology which has come up in the last decade and a half, 2 decades according to some. Rationalization, reconfiguration, and of course, restructuring. Not so long ago, what was considered downsizing has now been renamed right sizing, because there is a conscious move not to use words which have a negative connotation, but to carry the conviction that even where there is a negative connotation, the objective is a positive one. So, redeployment and redundancies have a relationship. Redeployment of hiring managers have a sequence. There can be redeployment to fill the jobs that can considerably reduce time and money that is spent on recruitment. So, there again is a relationship between redeployment and recruitment. Redeployment can also help to get someone started much quicker than typical external advertising and recruitment would. By hiring or redeploying, organization can keep the knowledge, skills and experience of the staff that are committed to working in the organization and already understand the organizational climate. A very significant thought. When you read, when hiring a redeployee, an organization is saving the induction time, and it has a level of comfort with the employee, and the employee has a level of comfort with him. This can save time and money, as training could be reduced and would prevent advertising time and cost. Redeployment offers your employees extra support, security and helps proactively manage change. Therefore, redeployment is not just a tool for stress situations, it can be a tool for proactive thinking. Now, if it is to be a tool for proactive thinking, there has to be a trial period in the organization. All posts filled via redeployment are normally subject to standard trial period, which acts as a form of probation. It provides an opportunity to assess a redeployee's ability for the post. A trial period provides redeployee with an opportunity to assess their suitability themselves and their level of job happiness. A mechanism for clear objectives to act and plan to put in place how career and organizational activities can be matched. This is a mutually beneficial process, as it provides a framework to ensure that redeployees are supported through the initial stages of their appointment and ensures the needs of the areas are met. This kept in mind, I would like to thank you for your considered attention and realize that these lectures, these presentations only prepare you to understand the subject better, and they require a reading on your part to follow up, and above all a judicious selection to apply them. Thank you once again.